truth with this Bria Hartley situation, and she's also letting it be known the behind the scenes and what's really going on with Caitlin Clark's injury.
Things just got real. Sophie Cunningham made a statement that has the entire basketball world buzzing, and it's not your average court drama. We're not talking fouls, controversial calls, or on-court scuffles. No, this is bigger. There's serious talk that Caitlin Clark might be considering stepping away from the WNBA altogether. Yes, you heard that correctly. The league's biggest name may not be sticking around, and fans are spiraling with speculation. Would you still support her if she walked away from pro ball? Let's break it down. Cunningham's comments basically poured fuel on a fire that was already smoldering. She implied that Caitlin's time in the league might be a lot shorter than what most people imagine. And now, social media is in meltdown mode. Sounds extreme? It's really not. The warning signs have been there for a while. Caitlin isn't a rookie anymore. She's in her sophomore season, and by now, there should be clear protections in place for her. Spoiler, there aren't. Game after game, she's taken hit after hit, fouled relentlessly, and handled more like a target than the rising face of women's basketball. Yet the WNBA seems shocked when someone like Sophie Cunningham dares to say out loud what many have been thinking for months. This isn't sustainable. Let's not forget, Sophie's no stranger to league discipline. With all the fines she's racked up, she's basically funding the WNBA herself. But that doesn't stop her from speaking up. And she's right. What Caitlin's going through just isn't acceptable anymore.
I don't know. Everyone keeps asking, everyone's like, you know, and I'm like, literally, she doesn't even know. Like, it's just like a day by day legit type of thing. And so, yeah, she's close, but like, you also have to remember, like, she could be playing if it wasn't in the WNBA by now, but like at this level, with how deep and like how good people are nowadays in our league, which is the best it's ever been, like you can't just be good. You have to be on top of your game. And so just trying to get her back in game shape, I think, is what they're trying to do. But like, again, it's literally a day by day. I'm not holding out any information.
Sophie didn't hold back. She basically admitted that even Caitlin Clark herself might be uncertain about when she'll be ready to return from her injury. The official word is that it's a day-to-day situation, but let's be real. We've all seen how quickly day-to-day can turn into week-to-week, and suddenly you're hearing that someone's done for the season. You don't have to be a doctor to sense that something about this whole situation feels off.
She also would be able to play if this was not sumo wrestling, if this was not UFC, if you guys did not play rugby in these basketball games. She'd probably be able to get out there and do her thing. But she has to put on all this armor, which caused her to get hurt anyway. She had to put on all this armor because y'all don't play basketball. It is rugby out there.
And here's where Sophie's comments really hit a nerve. She dropped a line that had fans stunned. Caitlin would probably already be playing if this wasn't the WNBA. Let that sink in. That's not just a critique. It's a gut punch. Think about what she's implying. In a different league, or maybe even a different sport altogether, Caitlin Clark might already be back on the court. But in the WNBA, it's a whole different story. The margin for error is razor thin. The officiating is all over the place, and behind the scenes, the politics feel messier than a high school clique war. Instead of celebrating the fact that Caitlin sells out arenas everywhere she goes, we're left questioning if she'll even finish the season. Or worse, if she's reconsidering her future in the league altogether.
Look, listen, Sophie, I love you trying to hold it down. We love that you were trying to hold it down. We wish you a speedy recovery. But as far as what's going on in the WNBA, we are on them. We gonna stay on them. It's not gonna change. It's not gonna change. We're on today nonsense.
Let's be real for a second. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA. But the WNBA? Oh, they absolutely need her. Since the moment she stepped onto a professional court, everything changed. TV ratings shot up, ticket sales exploded, and her jersey became a top seller overnight. She turned regular games into must-watch events. Without her, that hype train slows down fast. The packed arenas? They'll be half empty again. The buzz? Gone. And just like that, the league risks slipping back into the shadows. Caitlin didn't just bring attention. She brought a spotlight big enough to reveal everything the league would rather keep hidden. Fans are starting to notice the inconsistent officiating, the questionable disciplinary calls, and the obvious favoritism towards certain players. While some stars seem untouchable, Caitlin's out here getting knocked around, fouled constantly, and then hit with a tech for simply speaking up. It's beyond frustrating. It's flat out ridiculous.
I love Paige to death. Do not get me wrong. I think, like, again, I think she's a hell of a player and, like, would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. Like, you literally couldn't touch her. Couldn't touch her. And that shit is so annoying to me.
Look, I've got nothing but respect for Paige, seriously. She's an incredible talent, and honestly, I'd love to share the court with her someday. But let's call it like it is. The officiating last night was completely lopsided. She was getting every single call. It felt like you couldn't even breathe near her without a whistle being blown. And yeah, that kind of treatment, it gets frustrating fast. And that's really the double standard Sophie was calling out, isn't it? She can't even mention someone like Paige without getting slapped with a fine. Meanwhile, Angel Reese can openly claim that Caitlyn gets special treatment from the refs and no one says a word. Coaches can yell at officials from the sidelines and it's brushed off. But the moment Sophie makes a sarcastic remark or points out obvious favoritism, boom, she's lighter in the wallet. That's not consistent enforcement. That's selective punishment. And when Caitlin Clark keeps ending up at the center of it all, fans are starting to ask the uncomfortable question, is she being pushed out? Here's where things get especially tricky for the league, because Caitlyn doesn't seem like the type to sit around and let her prime years be wasted, getting bullied by refs and resented by she's got the passion, the fire, and the competitive edge. But Caitlin Clark is also sharp. She knows the game, and more importantly, she understands her worth. If she starts to feel like this league is wearing her down physically and mentally, you really think she won't consider other options? That's not a hot take. That's just logic. So let's talk about Europe for a minute. Tons of WNBA players head overseas during the off-season for one reason. The pay is better. So is the treatment. In fact, many players say officiating there is more consistent than in the W. If Caitlyn decided to leave tomorrow, she could easily become the highest-paid women's basketball player in the world without ever stepping on a WNBA court again. And to be honest, I wouldn't blame her. A lot of people wouldn't. Her fans would still tune in, they'd subscribe to the streams, and they'd be right there watching her drop 30 in Spain, Turkey, or Italy, while the WNBA is left asking itself how it let its biggest star slip away before year 3. But wait, there's another side to this. And yeah, it's going to sting even more for the league. Caitlin Clark has, and here's the part that really should keep the WNBA up at night. Caitlin Clark has options, and not just in basketball. She's already hinted at her love for golf. So what happens if she pulls a Paige Spiranak move, leans into brand deals, media appearances, maybe even gives pro golf a serious shot? Let's face it, she's marketable enough to earn tens of millions without taking an elbow to the face every night. That's the real worst-case scenario for the league. Not her playing in Europe, her walking away completely. Imagine Caitlyn saying, "I'm good. I'm focusing on golf, on building my brand, and you all can keep the drama." Fans are already murmuring about it. Some are asking, wouldn't she be happier pursuing golf? Or why not just play in Europe and come back only when the WNBA gets its act together, and when those quiet questions start turning into real conversations? That's when the league has a full-blown crisis on its hands, let's be honest. Players stepping away from the W isn't new. Maya Moore took a break. Liz Cambage checked out. Others have followed. But this is different. Caitlin Clark isn't just another star. She's the biggest thing women's basketball has ever seen. If she walks, it's not just a blow. It's a full-scale disaster earthquake. And let's not act like let's be honest. The warning signs are piling up. We've got confusing injury updates, vague day-to-day statuses that seem to drag on endlessly, reports that Caitlyn isn't attending film sessions, and now Sophie Cunningham openly saying that no one actually knows what's going on. That's not just bad luck, it's a system failing its biggest star. Rather than being clear and upfront, the WNBA keeps tossing out cryptic injury labels like groin strain, ankle bruise, or questionable tonight, as if fans won't notice the inconsistencies. Newsflash, people are paying attention. They see the red flags. And by now, this doesn't feel like some wild theory. It feels like plain mismanagement. The league seems unsure of what's really going on. Her team appears just as lost. And Caitlyn? she might be sitting there seriously asking herself, is this even worth it? Why risk your health for an organization that seems to be fumbling the basics? And that's just the physical side of it. Mentally, Caitlin Clark is under a level of pressure that few, if any, female athletes in U.S. sports history have had to carry. She's not just playing basketball. She's carrying entire brands. She's the face of Nike, State Farm, Gatorade, ESPN, and the WNBA itself. She can't go get coffee without causing a scene. Every single game is broadcasted nationally. Every shot, every turnover, every reaction is dissected online. And you don't think that takes a toll? Just ask Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, or Serena Williams. They all hit that wall, where the mental strain became too heavy to carry. Caitlin's no exception. And Sophie Cunningham? She's just one of the few brave enough to say it out loud. Cunningham hinting at her potentially the idea that Caitlin might walk away? It's not just speculation. It could very well be her way of reclaiming peace of mind. And here's the twist. Fans wouldn't necessarily be mad at her for it. If Caitlin announced tomorrow, I'm done with the WNBA, I'm heading to Europe, or even, I'm giving golf a shot, people would actually respect that. They'd say, protect your body, protect your mental health. The league didn't have your back. But for the WNBA itself, losing Caitlin would be devastating. Without her, momentum evaporates, attendance drops, media attention fades, sponsorship deals dry up. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't just a catchphrase. It's the difference between the league thriving or slipping into irrelevance. What Sophie Cunningham did was say aloud what many have only whispered. Maybe Caitlin Clark quitting the WNBA isn't just a possibility, it's the likely future. And hearing that from a current player, it changes everything. It stops sounding like rumor and starts sounding like reality. Now, let's get to the heart of the issue. This isn't just about Caitlin's injuries or Sophie's fines. It's about how the league treats its stars, and how that treatment ends up turning players into villains, victims, or something worse, golden children, depending on who fits. Let's break down how the league crafts its own storyline. Take Paige Bueckers as a clear example. From the moment she arrived, the WNBA seemed to have her narrative all mapped out. Superstar calls, highlight reels, and fans being told she's the next big thing. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has already accomplished more for the league in just 2 years than Paige has. The key difference? Caitlin doesn't get a safety net. She's got a huge target painted on her back. That's exactly the point Sophie Cunningham made. She held up a mirror to the league and said, "This is the reality. Some players get protected, while others, the very ones carrying the league, face the toughest treatment." She never named Caitlin directly, but everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. That's why fans reacted so strongly. This isn't just about Caitlin's health anymore. It's about the league's credibility as a whole. Because if Caitlin Clark decides she's done, then what's left? Angel Reese has a following, sure, but she's divisive. Aya Wilson is an elite talent, but might not pull in the casual fans the same way to don't really know her. Paige has a ton, let's face it. Angel Reese has the buzz, but she hasn't yet proven she can carry an entire league on her shoulders. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA risks slipping back into what it was before her arrival, scrambling for attention, begging ESPN for airtime, and struggling to fill seats except in a few key cities. That's why Sophie Cunningham's words hit so hard. This wasn't just idle speculation, it was a serious warning. Now, let's run through some what-if scenarios. Scenario 1. Caitlin fights through the pain, commits to rehab, and sticks with the WNBA for a few more years. Best case? She dominates, collects MVPs, and finally gets the superstar treatment she's earned. Worst case? The injuries keep piling up, her mental energy drains, and we're left wondering what could have been instead of celebrating what was. Scenario 2. She heads overseas. The pay's better, the season is shorter, and the respect is real. Picture Caitlin packing arenas in Spain or Turkey, while fans back home stay up late just to catch her games online. That would be a huge embarrassment for the WNBA. Scenario 3. She switches sports. Using her fierce competitiveness and massive fan base, Caitlin takes on golf. It might sound wild now, but remember how people laughed when Michael Jordan tried baseball. Caitlin doesn't need to be the next Tiger Woods to make a killing. She just needs to show up, swing, and cash in on endorsements. And sponsors would be lining up, no question. Any of those outcomes are totally plausible, and that's what makes it so frightening for the league. When your brightest star finds more appealing opportunities outside your league than inside it, you've already lost the battle. Sophie Cunningham just put into words what many have been thinking quietly. But let's bring it back to the fans, because they're the real force here. Fans aren't oblivious. They see the stark contrast in how Paige and Caitlyn are treated. They watch Sophie get fined repeatedly, while others skate by. They notice the uneven officiating, the vague injury updates, and the league's constant PR spin. And guess what? They're not buying it anymore. The WNBA had a once-in-a-generation chance to build something huge with Caitlyn Clark. Instead of shielding her, they've thrown her into what feels like a rigged game. That's why this conversation about her future is so urgent. If the league doesn't act fast, Caitlyn might just decide for them. And trust me, it won't be good news, Jesso. What happens next? So, what if Caitlyn actually decides to walk away? The honest truth is, it would spark total chaos. Sponsorship deals would nosedive. TV ratings would plummet. The Caitlyn Clark effect that's been boosting attendance across the league would disappear almost instantly. And here's the kicker. Fans wouldn't even point fingers at Caitlyn. Instead, they'd hold the WNBA responsible, saying the league dropped the ball. And honestly, they'd be right. Sophie Cunningham just pulled back the curtain on a tough reality, and now the WNBA has to face that people are paying close attention and taking this very seriously. So, here's the big question. Will Caitlyn push through, take her talents overseas, or maybe even surprise everyone by leaving basketball altogether? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your take in the comments below, because this story isn't slowing down anytime soon. And hey, if you found this breakdown helpful,